Hello, I'm James McQuivey, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester Research. LeWeb' Paris 2014 is now just a few weeks away, and it's time to get excited about wearable technology. As we meet together in Paris this December, we will be standing on the edge of 2015, a year in which the wearables market is set to explode. Even before Apple announced it would use 2015 to release its long-anticipated Apple Watch, consumer interest in wearable computing devices was already high. In the US, for example, we found that 42% of online adults told us that they already were interested in putting a wearable device on their wrist. Now that's already a 50% increase over 2013. And there were similar year-over-year increases for wearable options all over the body, whether in the clothing or embedded in fabric. But what are these people really signing up for? Do they even know? They certainly don't, because a majority of people haven't even seen one of these devices up close and personal. As an early adopter on the bleeding edge myself, I've been through a number of these already. I have over 2 years of Fitbit data sitting on a digital shelf somewhere, and have for a year now or longer been testing smartwatches because they are very clearly the category that's about to break out. My Pebble watch, for example, was my very first and is still, I'll admit, my favorite wearable computing device. Equipped with an e-ink screen, the kind that's on an e-reader, and with a few buttons in place of a touchscreen, these Pebbles are less interactive than the gadgets that are offered by Samsung, LG, and eventually by Apple, but they are remarkably useful. I found I used mine to track my runs, replacing what would have been a more expensive and ultimately more limited GPS watch device. I also received all my text messages on my wrist, and with a few clicks could send one of 6 pre-configured responses, all without having to take out my phone. Now this glanceability, this ability to interact with your personal information and get your tasks done at a glance, this is swiftly becoming the new battleground for serving customers in their mobile moments of need. We call these micro moments of need. Now that I've moved on to the Moto 360, I find the interaction to be much more satisfying, and actually it's so very attractive that people stop me in the street and in stores to ask me about my watch. But alas, the software experience just isn't there yet. It's not as good as even the Pebble has, because the Pebble has a couple of years of maturity behind it now. So even though my Moto 360 lets me voice dictate text messages, for example, I actually find that much more commonly I'd rather be able to just push a button and automatically resend a message that I'd pre-programmed with the flick of a finger. Now that's all part of the maturity process. You can't declare this category alive or dead on the basis of these early attempts. These devices first had to prove that they were good enough, that they looked good enough, and maybe could last long enough. We're more or less there. They then had to prove that they are easy to use, and that is certainly the case. Where they have to go next, however, is to prove that they are not only easy to use, but that they can reduce the friction of my everyday life in a number of ways, helping me get what I want, when I want it, at a glance and with the flick of a finger. And that's the journey that's ahead of wearables of all types, whether on the wrist or not. It's starting with these wrist-based devices, certainly, but it eventually gets to the earbud that will be in your ear for hearing voice prompts and speaking back to you. It'll obviously be on the glasses, whether it's Google Glass or some other version that you'll wear in the future. All of these things have to go through this maturation process, and 2015 is the year that's going to bring it all into a single place and then send these devices out into the world so that maturation process can really begin. Now, thanks in large part to Apple. Apple, a company known, of course, for its ability to take a nascent category like the MP3 player or the smartphone and really make it successful with consumers and turn the volume all the way up. We expect that by the year end 2015, there will be at least 10 million people who have an Apple Watch. That's a minimum. We'll know more when we get closer to release time, where the market is in its readiness. But this automatically makes Apple Watch the one to watch, if you'll pardon the pun. And it ensures that we have a base of users that developers are going to want to spend a lot of time attracting. That alone makes 2015 a year worth watching. But if Apple were alone, it wouldn't account for the explosion we're going to see, certainly in 2015. So, at LeWeb 2014 in December, just a few weeks, I will take the stage inviting a group of experts to join me from this category to present their views of what's going to happen in 2015 and beyond. We'll hear from my colleague, J.P. Gounder, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Forrester Research, an expert in this category, who will share 5 things you don't know about wearables, but that will be crucial to the market's success. He'll also reveal some previously unpublished data from Forrester's consumer and business research to show how both consumers and businesses are looking forward to the arrival of more wearable solutions in their lives. Next, we'll be joined by David Rose, CEO of Ditto Labs, and a longtime believer in wearable technology. He'll challenge our understanding of how far wearable devices could go. Think cameras on your body, and you get some sense of where David is likely to take us. We'll also invite Cedric Hutchings, CEO of digital health and wellness company Withings, to share his unique vision of how wearables are just a manifestation of our digital lifestyle, not a trendy new gadget category. Now, we'll have these experts and more on stage with us, and hopefully we'll have you there too. Please join us in December 9th, 10th, and 11th in Paris for LeWeb 2014. I look forward to the conversation.